Right then, currently our enemies are complete pushovers, and we're going to fix that. Literally, we can jump over them. We're going to make them a little bit more challenging. We're going to make them shoot us. What I want you to do is, you'll notice on my screen, I've now got an I've now got an SPR underscore enemy bullet. And I've also got an OBJ underscore enemy bullet. What I've done for SPR enemy bullet is I've created that teeny tiny, that's only 4x4 pixels, and I've just coloured that in red, absolutely teeny tiny. And then OBJ enemy bullet, all I've done is attached that to that. If you want to go and do the same. Good. Okay, moving on from there. What we've now got is we're going to set it up so the enemy will shoot you, and they're only going to shoot you when they're within range. And rather than doing the random numbers like we did in the Space Invaders game, what we're going to do is we're going to say shoot on a cooldown. And you can use this cooldown system for any power up in your game, for anything that dissipates after a period of time, but we're going to apply it to the enemy here. So what we're going to do with OBJ underscore enemy, we're on our create, we're going to have it wait for a period of time. So cooldown time is, well, cooldown time seems like a good way of recording that. I'm going to create a variable called cooldown, and I'm going to have wait 2 seconds. So wait 60 frames. Cooldown equals 60. What cooldown is now going to do, just to step out there, so cooldown equals 60. We're going to use an alarm that we've done before. Alarm 0 equals cooldown. That's all you need. I'm making this up as I go along. Can you tell? So alarm 0 equals 60. That's all you needed there, guys. That's going to work as our cooldown. We don't need a variable for this at all. What we do need is a record of whether we can shoot, and that's going to do this. Okay. Normally I test these things before I go, but this time I just thought we'd give it a try. I'm starting to regret that decision. So alarm 0 equals 60. Okay. When alarm 0 happens, we are going to create a new object. You guys know what creating a new object is by now. I want you all to shout it out as loud as you can. Don't actually do that. Instance underscore create. There we go. I can't spell. Look at the time. So again, we're going to create where I am, my X, my Y, and the object we're going to create is going to be OBJ underscore enemy bullet. Okay, that will spawn an enemy bullet, and we're going to give enemy bullet his behaviours in a second. What we're then going to say is reset that counter, like we've done a dozen times by now, equals 60. So just for testing, to make sure that that works, we should now see that every 2 seconds it will spawn a little red dot. There we go, it's spawning a red dot. That works perfectly. We now need to give the bullet some tracking motion. So the enemy bullet now needs some behaviours. And I'm going to show you some cool stuff that you can do here. We're going to do unguided bullet, and then we're going to do guided bullet. We want to do a homing missile. So what we're going to do here is, on create, we are going to move towards a particular object. To the internet. GML, move toward. Move towards point. That looks like the code I'm looking for. So move towards point. It now wants to know 3 properties: X, Y, SPR. You can probably figure out what SPR is. It's for speed. So we're going to move towards certain things. Move towards OBJ underscore player. And I want to move towards players X. And I want to move towards players Y. If you were following along the last video, you'll notice that copy paste saves you a lot of time. And then a speed. I'm just going to set it to a speed of 3 for testing. You can then naturally set up things like if I collide with the enemy, or if I collide with player, that has similar behaviours to how we did that before. But I'm going to do that in the player object in a second. We're just going to make sure that we can chase our enemies first. So bullets shoot, and the bullets move. Now notice, if I stand still, they'll all start moving towards where I was when I was standing still. So they're all pointing towards me. If I'm in the air, when they spawn things, they'll be going towards where they are in the air. Okay. Now I'm not actually going to bother putting in any of the collision mechanics. You guys should now be able to set up something like if I collide with the bullet, something bad happens. Perhaps resets the to wherever the checkpoints are. I'll leave that one as an exercise for you guys. What we are going to do though is we're going to turn this into a bit of a homing bullet, and we're going to set this up so it's really quite interesting. I do know that move towards point doesn't work, sorry, for what I'm going to do next. Now I'm going to do step towards, MP potential step. So what I'm going to do here is the code I've got for my enemy bullet. Instead of this happening on the create event, I'm going to change that for a step event. You guys can follow along, or you can just see how this works. I'm going to comment out this line of code. Now this is something that really helps for debugging, because that line of code is good, I like it, I know that it works, but I want to try something different. I don't want to delete that code, I'm just going to comment it out, making sure that the compiler doesn't interpret it. So that means if I do decide later on, no, I want that code to come back in place, I can have it doing what it was doing just by removing the two comments. So MP potential step wants 4 properties this time, well 4 parameters, where we're going to move towards, and I know they're the first 2 parameters I want. Players X, player Y, speed. Again, I'm going to travel at a speed of 3. This time check all. This is a true or false thing, and I know this because I've done this a few times. If you are wondering how I'm just happening to remember all of this stuff, it's just the documentation. So I just clicked on the first link there, and that tells me what all of these properties mean. Check all, whether check all instances true or just solid ones false. We are going to check all solid things. I'm just going to put in the word true. Now, this is going to create a much more difficult game because we've just created a homing missile. And by that, what I mean is, when the enemy shoots, I've now got a much more difficult challenge, as in impossible challenge, like being swarm of bees type thing. And also, they have some really interesting behaviours. They do swarm really quite nicely, but they won't interact with each other. Okay, really interesting behaviours, you can use that. I'm going to revert it back to how it was before, so I'm going to change that for it's a create event, and I'm going to comment out this line of code. I've decided I don't want that, I do want this line of code instead, which just moves towards where the player was. The last thing I want to show you is only spawn a bullet when it's within a certain range, when it's within a certain distance. So we're going to go back to our enemy here, obj_enemy. And when the alarm fires, when the alarm goes off, and we currently create an enemy bullet and reset it all, I'm going to wrap that inside of an if statement, which is going to say, only do this if you are within range of the player. We know that anything to do with checking stuff requires if. If distance underscore to object or to point. So I'm going to put in an object here. So distance to object, it wants to know an obj, so it wants to know an object, and the object we're looking for is object underscore player. Now we're going to use some comparators here. You've seen me use less than and equal to before, or greater than and equal to. Those are our operators. We can check a number of things. Is it less than or equal to? So I'm asking here, if the distance to object, well, if the distance to player is less than whatever you want your range to be. So I'm going to try 150. That's measured in pixels, by the way. If it's less than 150 pixels, do some stuff. And the stuff I want it to do is to create a new bullet. You'll notice, though, the alarm I've moved out of this if statement, so I want that to always keep resetting. Whether I'm in range or not, just keep resetting. You might have a bit of experiment by putting that inside of the if statement, see what behaviours you get. So I'll play the game. Now I'm going to deliberately walk far away. They are shooting. That tells us we're within a certain range. Okay, so I'm just going to keep making my values smaller until I'm happy with what works. So if 150 is quite large, I'm going to reduce that down to 50. If the player's bullet is less than or equal to 50 pixels, just checking logic in my brain that I haven't completely ballsed that up. Suspicious of this code. Right. This is what we call in industry as getting it wrong. I put something inside brackets and it absolutely shouldn't have been. So let me just reread that for you. If distance to object obj underscore player, and then you'll notice what I did here that was a bit of a derp was I needed if, and then you notice that my brackets marry up there. The brackets for which objects I'm looking for live there, less than or equal to 50. Okay. Now it'll work. Far away, getting closer, getting closer. 50 pixels away. There you go. 50 is actually very, very close. So I'm going to stand really close. Go on, spawn. There we go. So that's now working, but 50 pixels is very close. So again, trial and error. Let's try 150 where we were. And I reckon that'll work. Okay, and that's now got a range limiter on it. So if I stand further away, it shouldn't spawn. And then will spawn at around here. There we go. If you did that quicker than I did, well done.